What's up guys? This week we've got Togetic and Togekiss, the evolved form of most likely the first Pokemon you ever hatched from an egg, Togepi. Now it looks like this thing is supposed to just be a broken egg, but its Pokedex entry actually just says it's the Spike Ball Pokemon, and that the spikes are poisonous. So this thing is actually just a spiky ball that was too weak to get the egg off itself. It's also honestly a little scary. Togepi apparently siphons joy from people and then shares it with people in need, and Togetic creates what is literally called joy dust when it meets good people. I would not be surprised if some entrepreneuring folks in the Pokemon world realize that solid joy is a marketable product, and maybe that's why Misty left her Togetic in the Mirage Kingdom, to make sure no one could start turning a drug trade with it. And let's be real, in the anime, her Togepi was really only useful when she got extremely lucky with Metronome, and honestly, that's all I did with my Togepi 2 in Gold and Silver. Anyway, with all that said, let's find out how good were Togetic and then later Togekiss actually. And in this video, we'll be covering these competitive formats. Togetic might need some joy dust itself. 105 special defense is nice, and so is that defense stat, but everything else is not especially great, particularly that horrendous speed and HP. Now don't be fooled, in Gen 2, those defenses were pretty good, as was Togetic's typing. Rock types would smash through it, but it could handle electric and ice type moves somewhat because of its high special defense, but not enough to deal with Raikou and Zapdos though, or honestly anything with any firepower behind it, because even if Togetic got 2-hit KO'd, it didn't do anything. I guess since Togetic can technically use any move with Metronome, Game Freak decided it didn't really need any moves to itself, because its move pool makes Togetic one bad egg. Fire Blast was the best attack it learned for Pete's sake, which, come on, that's not even stab. Honestly, take these sets with a grain of salt because Togetic really wasn't used much at all. Its basic concept was to debuff other Pokemon with Charm or Encore, set up Safeguard, and then use one of its few attacking moves, and everything past that was just cobbled together from what it had left. It was pretty bad, honestly. Gen 3 had hints of what was to come, as Togetic got one of the best abilities in the game, Serene Grace, which doubled the chances that a move's extra effect will go off. Unfortunately for Togekiss, it didn't really have the stats to use most of these moves, so unless you wanted a slightly damaging 60% Thunder Wave with Body Slam or a 100% defense drop with Rock Smash, Togetic's best option was a pretty cheesy one: to hope for Ancient Power boost. That's right, this is one of the only sets that relies on gunning for that 10% 5-stat boost. While Togetic itself certainly couldn't do anything with it, if that got passed, it could be an exceptional boon to another teammate. The rest of the set was focused on keeping Togetic alive via healing its soft-boiled body, wishing, or alternatively, praying for a burn chance. It wasn't supposed to actually hurt anything. Of course, this strategy failed miserably most of the time, not only because you had to be lucky and keep this thing alive through any rock, ice, or electric move, but also because phasing of any sort destroyed it. Also, one stat boost in everything will usually lose to something with a bigger stat boost in an important stat. Say, attack? Like, you know, Swords Dance. Togetic looked more like a delicious meal for setup sweepers, but its utter lack of independence as a threat made it pretty useless. In fact, never used type useless. Luckily for Togekiss, its evolution into a slightly fatter egg with wings came with a whole mess of stats and an incredible move pool, meaning things were looking slightly more sunny side up. Gen 4 had many boons for Togekiss, including Roost for its longevity, Aura Sphere for coverage, and Nasty Plot to boost that coverage, which was the focus of Togekiss's most successful sets. But the linchpin of any Togekiss set had to be Air Slash. With the ability Serene Grace, Air Slash reached an absolutely obscene 60% flinch rate, and paired with Thunder Wave or Body Slam, Togekiss's Paraflinch set became legendary for its annoyance. And Air Slash certainly hurt quite a bit too, coming off of a base 120 special attack. But as mentioned, Nasty Plot was usually better. Togekiss's middling speed but high special attack and defenses let it serve as an all-purpose juggernaut that could be plugged into any team comp. It could be a cleric, it could sweep, it could heal itself, and it could even take out many usual flying type checks like Tyranitar, Metagross, and Heatran with its Aura Sphere. Certain Togekiss sets even opted for Baton Pass or Choice Scarf to specialize into different areas, such as a support or a cleaner. With such variable sets, much of Togekiss's power was in the fact that you didn't know which egg you were going to get until you cracked it, or more often until it cracked you. Of course, there were some consistent counters. Togekiss absolutely hated being status, as most of its sets relied on being in for some amount of time to set up either its own Nasty Plot or help for its team. Blissey and Cresselia could both shrug off damage and cripple it with poison or paralysis. Past that, Things that could come in on Togekiss and abuse its middling speed were strong threats. As Togekiss was frequently spamming Air Slash, this meant electric types and steel types like Jolteon, Electivire, Rotom, and Bronzong. Special mention goes to Zapdos, who resisted both of Togekiss's usual attacks and could set up a substitute before getting paralyzed. But with a blessed move pool and a sublime ability, Togekiss coasted all the way into overuse, a big step up from its more awkward waddling pre-evolution. Actually, which of these is more awkward? It's honestly hard to say, but at least we know which of these is better, right? One thing we didn't mention last gen was Togekiss's weakness to Stealth Rock. While have no illusions, it's not great for Togekiss. Despite changing a huge amount from Gen 3 to Gen 4, Togekiss received almost nothing new in Gen 5. It was kept alive by a favorable matchup against fighting types, meaning most of the strongest new attackers didn't hurt it too much, and honestly, its sets barely changed at all as well. Paraflinch became slightly more favorable as Togekiss struggled to keep up. Gen 5 was the generation of huge power creep, and Weathermons running around only exacerbated that problem. But in terms of direct counters, all Togekiss really gained was a minor annoyance with fighting types, or other Pokemon that could outspeed it and hit it in its weak defenses with a Rock Slide or something similar, like Landorus T, Terrakion, and Mienshao. Otherwise, it went along smiling its happy smile and doing the same thing as before. It was underused simply because new competitors pushed it down in usage, but this was a Pokemon that saw plenty of use and overused as well. Over in VGC though, Togekiss was having an absolute field day. We'll talk about the more boring set first. With Choice Scarf, Togekiss spammed Air Slash. Sometimes there were other moves too, but it was usually Air Slash, hoping for good damage and a flinch. And now for the interesting stuff. Togekiss was the only Pokemon in the game to get both Tailwind and Follow Me, making it possibly one of the best pure support Pokemon in the game. With its massive special defense, Togekiss could tank Dragon Gem boosted Draco Meteors from Hydreigon, keeping its partner safe and then boosting their speed the next turn. If it got off Tailwind, it could also then potentially heal, protect, or spam Air Slash for flinch. If needed, Tailwind could also be subbed out for Thunder Wave. This set was popularized by Randy Quahl, aka R Inanimate, who used it in about 6 different teams over the course of 2012 and 2013 to huge success. R Inanimate's achievements with Togekiss include winning the Nugget Bridge Major over Wolf Glick, winning the International Invitational Wi-Fi competition in March 2012, winning Salem, Oregon Regionals in 2013, making top 4 at US Nationals 2013, and finally barely missing out on top cut at 2013 Worlds at 18th place. Props to R Inanimate for finding something he liked and sticking with it, and that set proved incredibly effective, copied and piloted it to top 8 at the UK Nationals 2013, second at Houston Regionals and Seniors, and many others. Suffice to say, Togekiss thrived in VGC, especially partnered with fast physical attackers who wanted safety, like Excadrill, Terrakion, and Landorus. Excadrill specifically benefited hugely. And you thought Excadrill and Sand was powerful? Try it with plus run priority and ignoring levitators because of Mold Breaker. Now, Togekiss still struggled against electric types as they are so rampant in VGC, but Togekiss was certainly exquisite in VGC Gen 5. Now remember how we said Togekiss got nothing new in Gen 5? Gen 6 couldn't be more different. It's got a whole new typing, and boy, Fairy is a good freaking typing. Honestly, Togekiss mostly stuck to his same old sets, not even integrating the new Fairy stab like Dazzling Glaive, but the resistances and immunities it gave to Dragon Dark and Fighting were much appreciated. It still had to deal with Stealth Rocks, but with an even better bulk now, Togekiss could go back to tanking and setting up Nasty Plot, being effective against many dominant threats like Mega Lopunny, Keldeo, Garchomp, and Mega Sableye before it was banned. It didn't super mind being weak to steel types, as it usually lost to them beforehand anyways, although the added weakness to poison did hurt a bit. Again, this Togekiss broke through walls like nothing else, harrying opponents with massively strong air slashes that could also flinch. The only difference between his two sets were the EVs, determining whether Togekiss was meant to come in on attacks as a defensive wall and then threaten apparent counters or actually break walls itself. Though with all that said, familiar threats and electric types and rock types were still there, especially new threats like Mega Manectric and Mega Diancie. But remember how we said steel types are gonna give it more trouble now because of the fairy type? Well, that is certainly the case because Togekiss also now had to be very afraid of Scizor, Mega Manectric, and Excadrill, and also Gengar. But realistically, it's not like it did very well against any of those Pokemon in the first place before it got the Fairy type. So with the breath of fresh air granted from its Fairy typing, Togekiss made its way into Borderline, cementing its on-the-edge status it had somewhat enjoyed the generation before. And despite its new Fairy typing, Togekiss dwindled in usage slightly in VGC. This was partially due to other Rage Powder and Follow Me users coming into play, specifically Clefable, who had the ability Unaware and a better pure Fairy typing on its side. And also its pre-evolution has Friend Guard and Evolite, so yeah. Now, Togekiss saw a lot of play in various 2015 Winter Regionals, with a whopping 5 players across top 8s in multiple regions using it usually to sponge fighting type attacks for Pokemon that appreciated that defensive pairing, such as Hydreigon, Kangaskhan, and Bisharp. But by the time Worlds rolled around, only a single team even fielded Togekiss, way outside anything notable. Yeah, sorry Togekiss buddy, you had your time in the sun, but it looks like people just preferred other redirectors, like a certain electric squirrel, you know? And that's it. So how good was Togetic and Togekiss actually? Well, Togekick sucked, but Togekiss on the other hand was pretty damn good. As a versatile special attacker with an amazing ability, Togekiss found a way onto overused teams even when it wasn't strictly overused. And in doubles, it was at one point downright great, especially as a redirector and a support Pokemon. And is also just good at being annoying in general. And don't worry, the egg yolks end here. Haha, get it, yolks? Thanks for watching, everyone. And as always, if you liked the video and want to see more, be sure to subscribe to False White Gaming for more weekly Pokemon content. And of course, as I always say, comment on what Pokemon you want to see next. Also, thank you so much to our patrons for continued support of our videos, and thank you to the rest of you as well. And follow my crew on these social media platforms. And that's all I got. See you next time, everyone.